Hello to the live stream from Xperian and on the exams for the past few days. And I live stream to share some of my goals, some take specifically in the website from Sketch app that we. So this is the I've been planning to do, and yeah, you are here on a Sunday. Me much for joining me, and if you have a bit, and we'll get started. Yesterday was my live streams, so we'll get to get things going in flow and a little bit. You can down in the chats. Few minutes I'll be taking a pause and discuss. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, chat. So let's let me share me here. I have my web here and file which I referenced. Yesterday we started with pretty much the where we are using pretty much the value position, all the sub brands, the kind of all of them come together based in the and clientele that we brings that we are into and the things that we already have, followed by why or even something like Xperian. And some of that piece as a testimonial. The first dev's thoughts have been a blog already, and it's a nice kind of clarifies the things that we have ability to subscribe and chat with us. Also been that been one of instead of a mess. So yeah, this we have, and in Webflow, yesterday started with a mental structure, visual structure in and about the details per se, but much as possible get visual there. So yesterday we created this one and duplicated that as design right here. Sketch cards in the page. So having the cards content up. So this I've been working as of today morning. Yeah, we'll continue from here and working on as well. A couple of gates come up of the brand identity and brand language. So it's where we are, and we're building further, and then we will try and refine each section, tractions, a kind of today morning. Yeah, we've read a single word, but I also realized the widths for this paradigm are different, and so I aggregated it. One is really the introduction type, and there is so that it's categorized and the positioning, the sizes are there about putting all things in a single. We go kind of visual structure, and it keeps getting better. We are not change that. So things will start working. Let's go ahead and continue. I div like here. Have my div here, and this particular background also has this curve, right? It's like a semi-circle, rectangle working as a semi-circle. I want to add. These are all these I would do. Let's go and see if we get those properties well. So here already applied, and the border push it way here there. So 660 along that line, not particular on the values right now. Check later. Is kind of thing the down. So I'm gonna reduce background. I have my size here set to sweet as that thing. Today the other details I should keep kind of forgot. The shadows. That's where kind of so yesterday I've created and some classes. So this is build along where I take the Motrix page, any website or project that I send, and then the build classes and base classes wells most of the components, at least 70% of that page. I'll have my classes finish with that. So since this is a single page that I'm building now, so now have base or base class, something that you meant which you're not changing the properties of class anywhere else. But a global class, something like given here, which I'll be using for usable, and it can also change background. So yesterday's team has a lot of things. If you today do some so shadow, so the shadow here, and then for values we go ahead and do that, punch in the value. Since it's something like average out somehow it is set to 24, and the direction that I want to is because as a minus 2, I'm gonna get that should be clear now. Check my settings. This for online. Know if this particular audio is fine. Okay. If the audio probably must, I'll just fix it. Ah, looks my audio is in this state. If let me go ahead. For now, we'll live with this directly from my computer. But yeah, I hope you're all able to hear me okay. I heard that the audio was here and there. But yeah. So far, I've been trying to get this website up that I've been working on for quite some time, and getting into Webflow, pushing it live. So here, from the last session, we have worked on pretty much all the cards, the introductory section, some of the background related things. So this is something that I've worked on in yesterday's live stream. But yeah, so today we are going to continue building on the. I'm not worried about the interactions at this point in time, and not worried about the visual details either, the perfections either, but just getting the visual structure as close as possible. And yeah, and I've been working on to add some of the shadows to the card and getting the background there, and then we'll move on to the client section. Not heard me before, so sorry that. But yeah, next time I hope I carry my unity with me. So yeah, there we go. Alright, so it looks like the background has added the borders on all sides. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want the borders on the top. So I'm going to remove that. That's going to set that. I'm going to give it to the bottom. So there we go. Alright, so we have the shadow to the card as well. As you can see, all the cards look a little bit more elevated. So which is what we want. Of course, the shadow is also yeah, I think the subtlety of the shadow is coming through. But yeah, so this is something that I've added for the base class, and I'm going to switch it to white to class. Now we know like how it's floating above another surface. We can move on. We can move on to the next section. So here we have so this layout is more like a grid layout with a lot of the company logos. So yesterday I've been exporting quite a few assets for this block as well. So we're gonna go. So I think it's a good idea to go with the grid because I'm just gonna name this class as clientele and get my layout to a grid layout, which I can easily control, because controlling a lot of these individual pieces which are arranged in a grid-like fashion is very difficult if we are not using the grid. So this is where the power of the grid helps us. So let me quickly add the columns. All right, let's go with it. It looks like voice is still not very clear. It looks like the problem is also not with the, probably with the internet. It's flaky today. Okay, so we have the logos. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. So it's just work with a simple column instead. Let's work with one row and one column. Let's see how that works out. So now I can go ahead and add an image, and I can go ahead and choose that image right from here, and it's a 2x image. So I'm gonna call this as a client, and I'm gonna choose the direction of this to column. And probably I want these logos to be wrapping horizontally. So probably I'll just give it a there we go. Kind of wraps up neatly. And I'm gonna choose the images there. Okay. We have the phone. Where is where's no artist here? So let's it's a naming convention problem. So let me export it to the right thing here. And then just export the asset. So there we go. So this is something that I also found useful, where especially if you're a Mac user, having these folders on the bottom for quick access, it's much more easier than switching between the Finder windows and also navigate them. So it's easy for especially dragging and dropping. So yeah, this is one thing that I love about the workflow that I have. Yeah. So if you have any questions, go ahead and add them here. All right. Just give me a second, people. All right, let's go ahead. We have what is here, and then we have it's like the order is changing a bit, so let me not do that. Right. Star. I should have had this as a column instead. Right. Looks like there are still some issues going on. There we go. Right, there we go. Let's get some order to these logos. Basically, the way they're arranged. Let me just. There we go. Much better. So we'll worry about the order of things, and this is also supposed to be responsive, and accordingly it's supposed to wrap these logos. A div just to get this separator going here. So we have a gradient, a linear gradient with 20% opacity. I'll just call this as a separator for now, and just go ahead and add the gradient here. Let's take a look at what I have. So white, and then we have a blue. So for the center one, I'm just gonna copy the color. Here I'm just white and 0, and I'm just gonna copy this value here. So there we go. We have a gradient. All we need to do is transparency to it, and also turn around this gradient. 90 degrees, yeah, and just apply the size. Probably the height is around 2 pixels, and I'm gonna add a bit of margin on the top and bottom. Spacing right. On the bottom I have around 20 pixels, and on the top 160. So instead I'm gonna try and give it to the bottom. Should I go for a global class for the margin? Let me see. So I'm gonna go for global class for margin, and I already have a margin bottom of 32. I'm just gonna duplicate this and set it 20 here, and I'm just gonna remove this div block. That was just to set the global class, and probably just add it here, margin bottom 20. There we go. And I'm just gonna add another separator here, which is supposed to have a margin top. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So if you have any questions, again, try and drop the questions in the chat. Let's go. here. So for this separator, let me add another global class, but take the margin bottom 20 and add margin top 20. There we go. For now I can delete that and add it to this as margin. That's gonna set my top and bottom margins that I have here. And yeah, so probably I can have all of this within another container. I'll just leave it like that and probably add a bit of adding to this. So that the space is coming along. These elements, right? So let me go ahead and take a parent container, and I'm gonna have this as clientele 4. Okay, just gonna add it to that, and I'm gonna take so what I'm going to do is just check on the body again. So the text is gonna change to second text. It's gonna help me set some of these texts very easily. And this is a caption, let us say. And this I have as 1420. That's what I have here, but let me go ahead and make it into and justify it to the center. Have the color as I can set the color as a global class last time. So let me go ahead and do that. And I'll just take text color white, just duplicate that class. Blue. Then set its, that's not needed. I think that's text color dark blue. There we go. And here I can control the opacity, which will make it very component. So there we go. Better there. But here I want to give a margin bottom as well. Bottom 20. That's gonna take care of this. There we go. That's much better. So we'll work on the responsiveness and all of that later, just getting the visual structure ready, basically. So, yeah, no questions. If you have any questions, again, you can put them down in the chat box. Yeah, otherwise just let's go for it. All right, so it's the next section. And for this section, for this, but just getting the more essential components and elements in place, I'm gonna take another div block. So here, I'm just gonna probably call it offerings, and then just a little bit of padding that I wanted to do earlier. 48, 48, 48, 48. Just so that we have a clear visual structure. So it's easy for me to switch and scroll between one and the other sections. So for now, we can always adjust these spacings later. But yeah. So it's 60 points, which is, so earlier we have taken this as a H title large, and we can take a title like this, and I can paste it here. I'm just gonna build on this. So within the offerings, we have the title here. I'm not gonna color it, but I can go ahead and duplicate this base class and set it to medium. And it's 60 points, and definitely normal. I think if this is not set, I think I can go ahead and set it here as well. And we are going to add a text color of dark blue, and probably we can add the opacity here. All right, there we go. We have this, and let me go ahead and add a little bit of specification to this. Title large, left, and this is center. Can I do that? Give that a center justification, and add the dark blue. There we go. And now I can toggle button very manual. So this is going to be very interactive button kind of a thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a div block and basically get this thing going. So because I have a like that already, this also, and just call it as toggle 1 for now, and give it a border radius. The size of it is 48 height, and there is a background gradient that's applied. So let me right away. There we go. Just gonna adjust the angle of it. So something like that, and add a text block to this toggle. I'm gonna call it as label toggle. Give it, so this is secant text medium, and I have italic. I can go ahead and add text color white, and oops, let me go to the base class and give this thing, and then this one. So here I'm gonna control with the layout, vertical, there we go, a simple one. But then what we can do, should I build it into 2 div blocks? Yes, we need to click on both areas. So let's I'm just gonna do it now, and I'm just gonna call this as BG toggle highlight or active, let's call it, and I'm gonna take another div block here and call this as button toggle, and I'm gonna push these things and I can go ahead and add another one, which is so I'm gonna set this one. So we have the borders, and with this 2 pixel, pretty much the same thing, except for the background. So there's no background per se for that, but there is a border, 2 pixel, and the color is what I copied. There we go. Width of this one, let's say 50%. and I'm gonna have the position of this as relative and have these things out. Position absolute. Just gonna have this full. So giving the layout here, I'm just gonna add the layout here. Let me switch to the horizontal one, and that should actually work. Probably also to 0 and then 0. Let me try with this. I don't know why this is not getting visible. Oh yeah, so that's the thing. So I'm gonna set this to I don't think this is working. So let me add a bit of padding here. Then we have we can have this in such a way that this is part of the title. So I'm just gonna take a block and group them. There we go. And for this one, I'm gonna add a vertical one, but bring it to the center. There we go. Block. But we just have to add a padding on the left and right as well. So what do we have here? 20 pixel. So that's what I'm gonna add. So the position is something that's minus %. So this should probably be the one. This should probably be 2. So I'm gonna add text and set its opacity to 90. And then set its position. Oops. So sometimes we simplify the structure after we have built the base structure. So at the base structure, we are not really thinking deep. We are just thinking quick as to how to get there. And then we can go ahead and perfect the streamline approach. And here I'm going to add margin right, 32. That's going to set very well. Margin bot. I can always go ahead and add more spacing later. There we go. So we have the title related group ready, and I can go ahead and add so check layout. So let me go ahead and add the bottom margin to this particular one. I don't know if it's able to apply, but let me take a div block and go to the next section of things, where we have things in a masonry kind of a fashion. So I'm gonna take individual grid blocks, try and place them here. So this is going to be about probably, let me take a large group. Offerings cards, take another div block, call it as this. So now we can try and see. So not supposed to be outside of the boundary. That's what I'm checking right now. All right. No questions so far. Let me go ahead and then I can go ahead and duplicate. With that, we can wrap up today's live stream, and tomorrow we can go ahead and continue on the rest of the sections. But let me go ahead and just build this card. So for courses, I have text block, and let me go ahead and grab the card structure from here. And so let me call it as a card grid for now. And probably take a grid, and I don't want any columns per se, and so the column space I'm gonna type it to 0, and here I'm gonna paste that particular card here. With the hybrid courses, I have my width to 360, so I'm gonna set that for now. And I'm gonna set this as title. Probably this is the title for cards. No, this is not a card title. This is a group title. And I'm gonna set this thing to Canaro semi-bold. And percent opacity. That's right. That's pretty much right. 100%. I'm gonna say text color dark blue, and then set its opacity to 50%. There we go, and have a margin bottom of. There we go. And this card is going to be different from the card that is above in terms of its dimensions and the styling. So I'm gonna build on this thing. So instead I'm just gonna call it as a card offering. And the visual style is it has a border of 2 pixels, and the color is this. It has a background too. So the background is something that I can add. I can add with the combo class. here I do have text block. I'm going to call this as title card, and let me set the typography as well, and it has the same properties. Text dark blue, and we have 90% opacity. So this is something that we are trying to bring very soon. You will probably hear more details from us on this in the coming weeks. Alright, so we have margin bottom 20. This too is different. This is 14 points, so I'm just going to call it as P3 instead. And change the typography to 14. That should work. And copy the content from here. And this per se, but there's a button which says it's coming soon. So I'm gonna build that button based off this. I'm gonna remove offset bottom, background gradient, and I'm gonna do bottom medium. For now, name it whatever you want, as long as it's just getting to the visual structure, and then you can go ahead and refine these names and the structure. So I'm gonna set this to background as none, but the border is something that I want, like this, which is a dotted one. So let's go ahead and see the property. So it's a 1 pixel border with this particular, and there's no fill per se, and there's an opacity of 30% for this. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm going to set the typography, the text properties for this also. So here is something I can give right here. It's the same color basically, and it's 14 points. And the border is different. I can add a border here as well. Margin bottom 20 for now. There we go. We got, including the shadow. But yeah, so if I can go ahead and duplicate these cards. I'll have pretty much the structure that I want here. So probably in tomorrow's build we get the structure better. But yeah, thank you for joining me. This is just a short stream that I wanted to share with you. Just some of the workflows that I have, techniques. So if you have any questions, um, you can put down in the comments. If you're online watching me build this, if the voice is not clear, if you're not able to see the stream properly, let me know. All right, so if there are no questions, we can call it a day. You have a fantastic for joining me if you have joined in. Otherwise, just so there are multiple streams that are coming in from my side just to get this site up and running, and along the way kind of share some of the techniques, some of the workflow, some of the questions and ideas that if we can chat if you're online. But yeah, so I'll catch you again on the next build. So let's go ahead and continue with Webflow. So thank you for joining in. I'll catch you again.